Welcome to Umbrella Rebellion. I'm Marcy.
And I'm Dee.
We are finding healing after leaving a cult.
We will be discussing abuse and personal experience with the ATI, IBLP, and fundamental churches.
Trigger warning. This podcast may contain descriptions of various forms of abuse. Please take care for your safety and well-being while you are listening.
If the content becomes too much for you to handle, please turn this off. We hope to expose harmful teachings that lead to and justify abuse,
with the hope that those that are experiencing abuse can find support and escape from it.
Welcome to the Umbrella Rebellion. Today we are going to be discussing Gothard's teaching on courtship. So, hello, Marcy.
Hi. This ought to be a fun subject.
We are going to have some fun tonight. I have my wine. It's Friday night. We're recording on a Friday night. So it's Friday night. So drink up.
Yep. I've already finished mine.
Yeah. So I was trying to give Marcy a little preview so she can get in the right headspace for this. And yeah. So
and it went away. Yes, while we were doing that.
We kind of had a drink to prepare for. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So housekeeping items. So our podcast has actually really blown up in the last couple of weeks, and we've gotten a lot of new subscribers. So we just want to thank everyone that's come by and watched and subscribed and liked and commented. We're trying to keep up with the comments as best as we can.
Yes.
So Marcy and I both work full time. So yeah,
we'll get to you.
Yeah. And we're kind of trying to work out some kinks of, how to work this between the both of us. So yes. I tend to be on the internet a lot more.
Yes.
So I typically am the one to respond. If you're watching this, we're on YouTube, obviously. If you're not watching this and you're listening to the podcast, we have the podcast on, I think, 6 or 8 different platforms. And, Google, Spotify, Apple, yada, yada. And then we also are on YouTube. So if you prefer to just listen to the audio or you want to watch us, be goofy, then you can watch us on YouTube. Anything you want to say, Marcy?
No, just huge thank you. I agree with all of that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome.
Very, very exciting.
Yes. And don't forget, we have t-shirts and the link.
Yes.
The link to the merch is downstairs. Must be those lustful thoughts of me thinking downstairs. Okay, anyway.
Or that sinful alcohol beverage you are imbibing.
Yep. Obviously, my brain is not functioning. So the link is down in the description. Or the show notes, depending on where you're listening. Make sure that you listen to the end because we have some announcements. Okay. So we're back after my computer crashed. I don't think it liked the basic seminar.
I know it didn't.
It was rejecting Gothard's files.
It said vile and convoluted.
Cannot compute. Yeah. Utter malarkey.
Yes. Yes. Utter malarkey.
All right. So I had one of our group members, and if you're not aware, we have a support group for people who have been in this cult and who are coming out of it or want to get out of it or have been out of it. So we can kind of, just fellowship together and learn from each other and grow together. The link is down below, but it is required that you were a part of this cult before you can join. What we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be taking, because on our last live, somebody had asked us to do a episode on dating post cult. We're actually going to dive into the teachings that we were under in this cult, so you can kind of get an understanding of where we were. And for those of you who have been out, maybe this will help you dissect some of the thinking and understanding it in a new light. Marcy and I were talking that neither of us have looked at this for it since we've been in it. So we've never looked at it on the, from our perspective that we currently have.
Yes. It's like from a more realistic perspective. Yes.
Normal human beings.
Yes. In the real world.
Yes. Not the lemmings we were. So, yes. Just a little caveat to this. We do have the whole 6-day seminar workbook that one of our members provided for us. And so people who have not been in this cult may look at this as kind of a worksheet where you can fill in the blanks as you feel so inclined to. But the purpose of this was actually to fill in their blanks with their information that they were presenting. And we were having a conversation, the person who provided this with me, and I was like, wow, it never occurred to me the amount of writing that was required in these seminars was on purpose, because studies have shown that when you write something down, you're more inclined to retain it. So you're hearing it and you're writing it. So it was on purpose but the amount of things that they made you write and at the speed they made you write it was absolutely like unprocessable by a average human brain. So it was just like information. So what we're going to go over today is parts of the Saturday session, which is your 6th day you've been in this. And I don't remember, was it like 4, 5, 6 hours a day?
It was Saturday. Yeah. Saturday was a long day. It was from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And like maybe our lunch.
So Monday through Friday was like 2 to 3 hours, I think.
Yeah. And it may have gone all day Friday too.
Possibly. I think I do remember that. Yeah, Friday and Saturday were long.
Friday and all day Saturday. Yes.
So you're talking, 18, 24 hours possibly of inundation of information within a week's time. Well, you get the one day of rest at the end.
Yes. They couldn't encroach on Sunday.
No, you could not.
Because you need to be in church learning there.
Getting indoctrinated there. Yes. Yeah. And then also we wanted to kind of discuss the fact that we do have all of the days that we can share with you and kind of break down and go through. If y'all are so inclined for us to share that with you, please let us know in the comments. Leave a like on this post. I don't want to do the YouTube thing like, if we get to 3,000 likes, we'll do. No, we're probably going to do it anyway, but we just want to know if you want it.
We reserve that right to do it anyway. I would say, my thought when I was reading through this and also remembering going through the basic seminar is that it was something akin to drinking from a fire hose. You were just flooded with so much information. You were trying to write so fast that there was no way to process a lot of what you were hearing. It was just put there in your brain because you were just, doing it.
Right. It was almost like robotic.
Yeah.
Hence the lemming thing. Yeah. So it starts off with the first page is the 3 aspects of God's ways. You have a birth of a vision, death of a vision, and then spiritual fulfillment, because obviously you can't have spiritual fulfillment unless there's death of your vision as well. Like nobody can have a vision and it like come to fruition without obstacle, I guess.
Yes.
And I mean, I get that. That's part of life. Obstacles are part of life and everything. But is it really God's will if you didn't have any hindrance in the midst of that?
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, so the first one is the headquarters site, which is the ATI IBLP headquarters. So their death of a vision was the property had sold and then the price was wrong when they relisted it. Apparently they couldn't afford it, but then somebody gave them money so that they were able to afford it.
Yes. Or they negotiated something with the lady that was selling it or something like that. I forget the whole story, but
yeah. So
there was negotiations in there too.
Yeah, some kind of, manipulation and
yeah. where they thought they had lost it, which was the death of the vision, and then they then a better thing happened later, and it was given back to them.
Right, because it was, obviously God's will for him to have it at
Mm-hmm.
the price that they got it at, and it wasn't the right timing the first time.
Right.
So then he gives, biblical examples of it, blah, blah, blah. So we're kind of just going to scroll through some of this. It's really not, all of it's not like really like relevant, but the other thing we wanted to mention is that a lot of the Monday through Friday information is building you up to some of this information making sense. Like if I had been given Saturday's presentation without Monday through Fridays, then I'd have been like, huh? Like, what? But because the information was slowly given to you in little bits and pieces, it built upon each other so that all of this actually made sense to the people who were there and was like, oh, this must be God's way of doing things because of all of the days before led into this. So it's kind of like backwards to like do this first. So just the caveat that you're going to see stuff and go, wow, why didn't these people like understand that this was totally crazy? But it's because we had 5 days before this of inundation of crazy talk to get our minds going. Well, maybe this is the right way to do things. We're going to talk about how you have the insight into finding God's will. So this is, maybe it would make sense if we heard the presentation, but to me, like, it's just kind of detached a little bit here. And I understand this is just notes, right? So we're just getting pieces and parts. So God wills involves people. Obviously, if you're going to do God's will, there's other people involved. Okay. And then there's this fear of people must be overcome. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, some of this just doesn't make sense. It might have made sense with the stories that were being told because a lot of these were told in story form.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and I'm just like, okay, a lot of like when you're younger, you don't have a whole lot of fear of people, so not sure where that fits in. And then this one really caught me when I read it, and I was like, oh, okay, there comes part of the cult mentality, because perfect love casts out all fear. So on the face of that, you're like, oh yeah, if somebody truly loves you, there's no fear. Well, when you're in this cult, it also goes that if you have fear, you cannot have perfect love. And so where there is fear, there is not perfection. And we're supposed to strive for perfection. And we all know we can't achieve it. But then Marcy, share what you shared with me that was like, duh.
Well, I think I said something to the effect of, well, also many of their principles were put in place by fear. Like if you didn't follow this principle, then this would happen to you, like obey or terrible things would happen to you. That's what kept you in your place was fear itself. Fear of God or fear of a parent or fear of life repercussions. Like if something bad happened to you in life was obviously because you hadn't done what you were supposed to do. So what kept you in line was fear. So this is just an opposite to how they functioned, how they kept you in line.
Right. So all of their teachings were fear-based.
Yeah, all of them were fear-based.
Yeah. So, but obviously their teachings were perfect. But how could they be of their own teachings? Like, that's just like, looking at it from now. And if you look at this, like outside of all of those other days, like that's how we're like saying like, this just wouldn't make sense, like we're so far removed from it. It's like, huh?
Yeah. Especially jumping into it in the middle of the seminar. Like I think if I had like reviewed some things up coming up to this, then it would have made more sense. But and I went to the basic at least 3 times.
Okay. I only went once.
And then advanced maybe twice. So, yeah.
Yeah, because you can't get all of it in one. Yeah.
No, you really can't. I remember thinking that the second time I went was thinking, oh, I have this booklet that I had last time, and I can get the other half of the notes that I can write down because I couldn't write them fast enough. And my mom went through it with me too for like the third or fourth time for her, and she was like, "I'm going to fill in the spaces that I missed," because and I went for the first time I went when I was 12. She was so a 12-year-old can't write that fast either.
No.
No.
All right. So then we're going to get into God's will. Exactly what I would choose as a person, anybody, like he's trying to like speak to all people, would choose if you knew all the facts. So if you knew everything that was going to happen, you and God would choose the same thing. Okay. I
honestly do not think that would be so.
Mm-hmm. So then you're supposed to make a little prayer and do a life commitment to follow God, because you never did that when you got saved. Okay. All right.
The whole basic seminar was full of these commitments. At the end of each session, they would have a prayer like this where you would commit to whatever you had just learned. So you were hearing it, you were writing it down, and at the end you had to verbally or mentally agree to it in your mind with this commitment. So the trifecta.
Yeah, and this page I'm kind of confused at. I can't remember how old she said when she went through this, so she may have been at a young age. She might be missing some parts of this, but she's got a lot of it filled in.
She really does. Compared for as much as it was, she really has a lot.
Here's a good page. You're gonna learn some stuff today. If you didn't know how to overcome the power of sin, you're gonna know now.
You got bullet points.
All right. So learn why past efforts have failed, because you can achieve perfection, right? And never sin again if you only follow these things. Okay.
Number 1 is the fatality of fleshly efforts, or your soul trying to do things instead of being led by the Spirit. Number 2, the defeat of double-mindedness. The ignorance of how to live in the ignorance of how to live in Christ?
Right, because you don't know how to do it. So obviously you're going to fail at overcoming sin because you're ignorant.
the foolishness of fleshly provisions, because you shouldn't be making provisions as a wise thing.
No, and you should. It's the fleshly provisions. It's the things that bring you joy.
And the short-sightedness of secrecy, which both of us laughed at this. There is so much secrecy in this cult that was just laughable, because it was short-sighted of him to think that his secrecy would.
It was nothing but a shroud of secrecy in this cult.
Like upon level upon level upon level. Okay, so then we go to 2, and it says, learn what it means to be in Christ. And then something about ties to Abraham. We sinned in Adam. We're in Christ at our new birth. It kind of goes over this to me sounds like salvation type of stuff.
Right. Learn how to turn our position in Christ into achieved by the heritage of faith. Ask for wisdom and revelation. Okay, so you're gonna if you know where you stand with Jesus, you won't sin. Okay, I'm trying to all put it in my brain the right way. All right, and if you ask for wisdom, you're gonna receive it, and then you won't sin because you're gonna have God and you are gonna have that little chit chat, and He's gonna be like, "You're supposed to do this." Okay. Faith is trusting God's word rather than human reasoning, which, hey, I wholeheartedly believe in that. Yeah. Okay. Apply differently, but okay. God promised Abraham, because if you know God promised Abraham a son, you're not going to sin.
Yeah. It just doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense with what they. Yeah.
And God said it, so you're dead to sin. Okay. Okay. So then it's 7 steps to reckon ourselves dead to sin. Okay. So God said it. So now we have to apply it. All right. See. Engraft Romans 6 and 8 into your soul. Memorize scripture and you won't sin.
Yes.
Yeah.
And repeat it on the daily if you have to.
Like
Quote
meditate day and night.
Yes. Yes. Literally.
See, that indoctrination comes right back. Right in the right order, too.
Yes. Word for word. King James Version. Because it's not valid if it's not King James Version.
All right. So, and then this kind of had me laughing, too. Compare the law of sin to the law of gravity. Not exactly sure what the law of sin is, other than it will find you out and everyone does it. So, I don't know. Because if you ever told a lie, ever told a lie, you're a sinner.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we must make no provisions for fleshly lusts. Don't even put that naked woman in front of you. Oh, don't even put the breastfeeding mom in front of you. Like, God forbid a mom breastfeed in public because you might lust after her. Okay. Yeah. So if y'all haven't seen the whole thing, I did a little reel on Instagram and shared it. There's a dude out there that tried to tell women what they should and shouldn't share and how. And then the internet responded.
And it was pretty funny.
It was awesome.
It was pretty funny.
Thank you, internet. So I grabbed a few of them that I really liked and I put it all together and it was pretty awesome. So that's what the men in this organization and in the fundamental Bible believing churches believe, is that if it's in front of you and you look at it, it's a provision for your flesh. But if it's not in front of you, then the provision won't be there. It's like the responsibility is on the other person to not put it there for you, instead of you making a choice on what you're going to do with your thoughts once you see it.
Right. It's more about whether they see it, if that you're causing them to lust because you're putting it in front of their face, instead of them controlling their own thoughts when they see it, or even looking away.
Right. I mean, or, deciding not to be on the internet because it's all a bunch of lustful things. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. You can choose to not be on the internet in social media.
Mm-hmm.
That's choice
on the other person.
And it's not my responsibility to make it safe for you to be there. So, because you're lusting after breastfeeding mothers. I don't know. So if you picture yourself dead to the power and appeal of sin, then you can avoid it. Just go in your mind. Okay. And this is why this is funny. Okay. So if you don't know anything about this cult, it's all against Eastern religions and yoga and what is all of that?
The power of positive thinking. They don't like that either. Yeah, no.
But this is it. This is exactly it. If you picture yourself dead to sin, if you envision it, if you imagine it, if you conjure it up in your mind, then you will be. That's like, you totally missed the boat on that one, but okay. All right, got it. So, all right. Be accountable to God-given authority. Because if you're accountable to your heathen friends, you're just going to sin.
Well, I understand God-given authority was one of two things. For a guy, it was the dad, and for a girl, it was the dad or the husband. So your God-given authority is,
It also was the mother until you were a certain age, but there really wasn't a defined age where you were still accountable to your mother, but your mother was still accountable to your father. So you were actually really only accountable to your father because your mother couldn't do anything without your father. So it was really just father, but yeah.
Yes, but you're right. You were very right there. I think till the age of 12, because at the age of 12 is when you became an adult. And so that's probably where they would cut that off. for them all.
You know, that makes sense on why they had such young children working at headquarters now.
Yep.
Okay. Which also, the way I realized I was in a cult was because I watched Leah Remini's Scientology documentary. And there's so many parallels to Scientology and IBLP ATI. And one day, Marcy and I are going to go through it and do a comparison. And it's going to freak you out. So, because it freaked me out. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it. And if you were in it, you're going to go, holy crap. And if you weren't, you're going to be confused. So we'll let you know.
Yes. I'm about halfway through it. And I'm already like, oh, holy cow. Like, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Oh, this one's a good one. Use the power of shame to conquer temptation.
Oh, yeah. This is the one that got me. Like, yes. There was so much shame built into this. That's how they kept you in line. Shame yourself, shame you, somebody else shame you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because if you have guilt and shame over what you're doing, you're going to be moldable and malleable and ripe for abuse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to pull any punches. I mean, that's basically setting you up to be abused.
Mm-hmm.
Live in shame of your sin. And if you can never conquer it, feel the shame of it. But here's the good one. Mr. Gothard himself feels no shame for what he did to those girls. Because obviously he doesn't feel like he sinned. Because I've been reading up on it because it's been a couple of years. And it was never a sexual thing for him.
So therefore
it wasn't sin.
Painful. Yeah, not sin. Mm-hmm.
Because you can justify anything if you can reason it away in your brain, Mr. Gothard. And I know you're still alive. And I know you're on the internet. And yeah, I know you're probably watching this. Yeah. Read your own works and live by them. Okay, but anyway.
Oh, the hypocrisy.
Yes. I know. I was telling Marcy earlier, and I don't know if we were recording when we did this. I was like, if he had only listened to his own teachings, he would have never gone down this road. Yes. But obviously they don't work because he couldn't even abide by them himself. So, but whatever. Recognize and obey the scriptures promptings of God's Spirit. Scriptural promptings. Okay, so if you read God's word, the Spirit's going to prompt you and you're going to not sin. Got it. All right. And then you have to learn how to yield to God. I mean, yeah, it's not really, innate in our nature to be like, okay, I give up my will because God gave us a free will. But okay.
Yes.
All right. So obviously we've got the one side that says realize how to yield, how we yield to sin, and then yield to God in the same way. So basically it's just like flipping the coin. Like you give in to your fleshly impulses, but you should give in to the spiritual promptings of God. You should not visualize sinful things. Get off the internet, dear Brian. And then you should visualize only spiritual things. And I'm not saying any of these teachings aren't spiritual or correct or biblical or godly, but I'm saying the way it's presented is like, this is your how-to guide to be a Christian. And then there's like the flip side of what happens in this cult that doesn't mesh with the teachings. So that's kind of why I'm like, okay, whatever. It's not like I don't believe that this is like the things in the Bible are not true. Like that's not what I'm trying to say here at all. I don't know if that made any sense, but
I followed you. You're trying to say that the Bible is true, but the way they taught it is twisted and not true.
Right. I'm not trying to mock the Bible or God or anyone's faith or the truth of any of some of these things. Like It's just the way it was applied is what I'm mocking, and the way things happened in the cult I'm mocking. So just I want to make that clear. I'm not trying to mock anybody's religion or faith or anything like that. I'm mocking Mr. Gothard. Mr. Gothard, I'm mocking you. All right. So we yield to ourselves to sin, but we should yield ourselves to God. And then yield of your body members, which everybody knows what a member of your body is. And what Mr. Gothard was saying is don't do the dirty in a sinful way. Only do the dirty in a godly way. So, yeah. Mine also, like, your hands, like you shouldn't steal. Okay. But it was all like that sexual connotation to a lot of it.
Yeah.
It was weird because it was like they said yield your members and they were talking about like your whole entire body, like your hands and your feet. But like there was that sexual undertone current of like teachings, and it was like they just kind of skirted around it, but it was like almost like that meant more, like the way that they presented it meant more than like any of the other parts of it. It was really weird. Did you get that? I mean, like, when you were in it?
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, okay. So it was understood that a sexual sin was the ultimate worst sin. Like that was like the ultimate thing that you could do to be absolutely a horrible, terrible person and lose the favor of God.
Right.
Be struck by lightning. And the teachings just reiterated that. Yeah.
Right. So it's like if you had that in your mind, like that was the ultimate, then it was like all of the other stuff was like lesser sins almost.
Right.
Which they even taught that there weren't lesser sins, but
they
it was
did.
always.
But there was always understanding that there was a hierarchy to it.
Yeah, it was weird. It was really weird. So we're going to skip over this a little bit. So, here's a good one. Let's learn how to be friends.
Which plays into the courtship part later.
This is your build up for courtship.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're an acquaintance, the responsibilities you have to your acquaintance are for divine encounters. God's going to set you up to like encounter them in a divine way. So you need to develop general questions for children, youth, and adults. And that goes into the Bible verse, be ready with an answer, because you never know when God's going to put somebody in your path that you're supposed to share the truth with, which goes back to my story of in the Air Force, how I was like appalled by the rap music and was trying to control my roommate because it was wrong, according to this. So that was an acquaintance that I, obviously needed to have an answer to of what's right and wrong.
Yes. So this is the casual friendship. So you identify positive qualities and you have specific questions. I'm trying to process what they were
like. You're okay. So you're like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So like, I'm guessing like your casual friendships, you're like, you see the positives in them and you share with them what's positive about them. Like, you're not going to like get into nitty gritty of like truth with them. It's just going to be surface level. You're a good person. You do this well. Bravo. Yay. Kind of stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then close friendship, you can visualize achievement and design projects to do together.
So Marcy,
and common life goals and projects together.
Projects together. We have a podcast. We are close friends.
Yes.
You have achieved my close friendship circle.
Yes. We're visualizing achievement.
Yes, we are. Positive thinking. Oh, wait. No, that's wrong.
Yeah. Oh, wait. We did that. And then intimate friendship, character development, and correction of blind spots. So if you get to the intimate friendship part, then you're allowed to point out other people's issues and
character flaws. Let's call it like it is. Character flaws.
Correct their blind spots.
correction of blind spots. Like, okay, so for those who aren't in it, blind spots are ways in which you do something wrong, but you don't realize it. Like if I was mean to Mr. Gothard by mocking his teachings, and I didn't realize I was being mean to Mr. Gothard by mocking his teachings. Marcy could tell me, you're really being mean to Mr. Gothard by mocking his teachings. That's a blind spot. You need to correct that.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. I was just thinking about this. Okay, so I am pretty sure the Platts or Welcome to Plattville people are ATI.
Really?
Yes, because in one of their episodes, I don't know if they called it blind spots, but I was like, oh.
They used a watchword.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I might have to pull that clip and put it in here.
Do you think that there might be some blind spots that you're missing?
On everyone's part. And
we all
anytime you
have
have a problem, everyone has a blind spot.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, y'all are in ATI, I can tell.
Isn't that funny how we know? Because we know the words. Because there were some very specific words and phrases that were used, like death of a vision or blind spots or things like that you learned in the basic seminar, and then they were used a lot to explain concepts in other teachings.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, oh my gosh. And if they're not in ATI IBLP, I apologize. But they're definitely in the fundamental world somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that is interchangeable into the fundy world. All right. So, okay. So we're developing friendships. Marcy, I believe we have achieved the close friendship circle.
Yes. We hit all the bullets. We checked off all the boxes.
You're not allowed to tell me I'm doing wrong, though. You have not achieved that.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This was another one that we had a lot of discussion on. Purpose that those who reject Christ must reject me, and those who love Christ should love me. And how backwards that is to the gospel. So, and how isolating. So this cult was famous for being, for isolating from the world and isolating the families, isolating from everyone else. And how this teaching played into that. So, obviously, if they weren't of Christ, they were going to reject you. You should expect them to reject you. And also, you weren't supposed to be of the world, so you couldn't really invite them in. You couldn't be with them,
So if nobody loved you, obviously you weren't of Christ.
Yes.
So if you didn't have any friends, obviously you weren't doing Christianity right, because if they loved Christ, they're going to love you.
Yeah, it just is so messed up.
So, okay, so this is like setting up, like Marcy said, this is setting up the isolationism, right? Because if you don't love Christ, then you're not going to love me, and you're rejecting me, So if you reject Christ, you're rejecting me, and therefore I have to reject you. Because I can't be, one of their other words is unequally yoked, right? So if you reject Christ, then I can't be a part of your friendship, because that would make us unequally yoked in their teachings. So which makes you isolate from people who don't think like you. Yeah.
They get you both ways.
Mm-hmm.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah. If you don't like me, then you must not be of Christ.
The catch-22.
That makes total sense. Because people can't have personal preferences at all.
No.
Purpose to verbally identify with Christ. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Excuse me. So verbally identifying with Christ was code for sharing salvation.
For what?
Sharing salvation.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
That was like your if you had nothing else to talk to somebody about, you could be like, no, thank you. I'm with Jesus. And then it was supposed to, like, the floodgates were supposed to open and they're going to ask you questions and then they were going to get saved. Like that was like the way it was presented to us a lot.
Because salvation is not based in relationship. Like
Mm-mm.
the whole teaching of the Bible is based in relationship, but this is not what that's teaching.
Yeah, it's very singular focused
Mhm.
and almost checklisty. Like, I mean, like, and that's kind of what I was saying in my last episode it's like that 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna get closer to Jesus. 3,
Yes.
4, 5, I'm getting closer to Jesus. Wait, where am I not getting closer to Jesus? Why? You know, like it's just this checklist. Like, and if you go down the line, you're supposed to get there. And then if you don't get there, and you're like, wait, why didn't I get there?
Yeah. So you must have done something wrong. So this
Right.
last one says, purpose to let God choose my friends based on their needs and desire for God's help. So if you can't be friends with them, if people that are not of Christ are going to reject you. Also, you can't be friends with them if they don't have needs and desire God's help.
So if you don't need God's help and you don't want God's help, then you can't be friends with me.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus is supposed to be for the ones that need him the most. And aren't those the people that reject him?
Mm-hmm. So backwards.
So, yeah, it's kind of like, it's just weird.
It's
Based
hard,
on
it's
their
hard.
needs and desires. For if you don't desire God's help, and that the way that's written is just kind of bizarre, like based on their needs and desire for help. So if you need God's help but you don't desire it, then I can't be your friend. Like that's kind of what I get out of that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good. Here we go with courtship.
Yes.
We're gonna set it up for you.
Oh
wait, this is the best. Okay.
What is it?
Requirements of a total marriage. Okay.
A total marriage.
A total marriage, not a half-assed one, a total one.
Okay.
All right. So you got the spirit. You have a leader connected to God, and a challenge obviously is the woman.
Obviously.
The challenge is the woman.
Yeah.
Does that, like, I don't know if that was the teaching, but that's what that says.
But that's what that says. Yes.
The man is the leader and the woman is the challenge.
Spirit. And courtship equals one spirit. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So
Wait. But don't forget, you are greater effective for God if you are married and not single.
Wait a minute. What? That's exactly opposite of what he teaches.
Right?
Yes.
You have a greater effectiveness. He was never married. How could he be effective to God then?
Yeah, and he consistently stated that you were more effective if you were single. That was the whole point behind like committing to a certain number of years at the seminar.
The counseling
seminar. Yes. Mm-hmm. that you would save yourself for a certain amount of years for service to God. Mm. So this is like direct contradiction. Completely. And also, Mr. Gothard preaches that he remained single all those years because people would ask him while he wasn't married. He remained single all those years so that he was more effective for God.
But obviously,
distractions.
Obviously, he was not as greater of effectiveness because he would have been greater effectively if he would have been married. So, Mr. Gothard, you missed the boat. Mm-hmm. See, this is why we are all heathens now.
Yes,
because you didn't get married.
Oh my goodness!
I'm kidding. Uniting two families. I don't know what procedure is. I guess the procedure of getting married is important. Your engagement, one mind, will, and emotion for life together, because you can't be in two different places and have two different thoughts if you're in a marriage. You have to be of one mind.
Right, which is why the guy gets to be the head, because it's one mind and one will.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so that sets you up for you cannot have any differing views than your husband. Like that's like
because the woman is under the authority of the man. She has to yield. It is expected of her in the hierarchy of authority that if the husband says, and there's a disagreement, for you to have a holy marriage and be of one mind, and will and emotion, she has to yield to be godly and be of one mind.
Does not matter if his idea is crazy town. Okay. Like, example. Married for 6 months. We courted and did it terribly and did it all wrong. And obviously that's why my marriage failed. But anyway, I digress. Married for 6 months. Honey, you've been working so hard. I'm going to be a great wife. What would you like to do today? I want to go find some weed. What? And then it was used against me. Well, you said I could do anything I wanted to. Well, as a wife in this godly whole ass marriage, I can't disagree with you because I said it. So I was manipulated into going to find weed with my husband, which I had no desire to do, and did not want to partake, nor have my husband partake because, well, that's kind of not what we had like talked about at all before we got married. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. You can't have a thought or opinion. Sorry, you're not. You're the challenge. You're the leader.
Yes.
I deny your challenge.
I am a challenge and I am proud of it. Yes. Yeah.
That would be one of those, you're supposed to be of one mind and will and emotion. And if I say something and my husband disagrees, whether I disagree with it or not, I have to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a real world application for you of how this was used to abuse me in my marriage, my first marriage.
Yes.
Let's get that clear.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you leaving?
I'm sure I'm hearing
Okay.
stuff up there, so I'll shoot soon.
I love you. I'm so glad you're part of my life. So, and then, I guess this is the 3 parts of marriage. Marriage is the spirit, the soul, and the body, or the 3 parts of the human connectedness. I don't know.
Physical.
Spiritual, physical, and physical consummation. Marriage, covenant, one flesh. So, once you're married, as long as your mind, will, and emotions are all together, then your bodies can be together. That's like not even humanly possible, but okay.
Yes, no, like that doesn't. It doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't. Like, you're 2 different human beings. Like, I get that you should be like connected in ways that no one else you're connected with, right? Like,
right, yeah.
And I get that, like, you should be on the same page most of the time, or like come to agreements about those like big things.
Yes.
But, like, my husband and I have differences on little things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect our marriage because we can agree to disagree. But okay.
Yeah. Yes.
There's no such thing as agree to disagree with this man.
No, there really isn't. It is black and white.
Here's a good one.
Fathers and daughters. Ooh.
Here we go. Here's the courtship. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Y'all want to know how to be godly? Okay. So now we have to address the daughters. Because to have a courtship, the daughters must agree.
Because it doesn't say that the boys have to sign anything like this. It's only the daughters. So the only ones committing to courtship are the girls.
And obviously the boys have no
husband.
What's that?
Because we have to yield to dad and husband.
And the man has absolutely no responsibility except to God.
Exactly.
And to get the father's permission.
Yeah.
But that's God's will. So same thing. Yeah. I think I should marry your wife. I believe it's God's will. Okay.
They even had covenants that you had to sign and that the dad would sign and the girl would sign, like a certificate that you were signing that you promised to do this.
So it would be really interesting to get a guy's perspective on this.
Yes.
Because I mean, like, we weren't in all of the men's meetings, and there were some teachings that only the men went to or the boys went to. And so I would be interested to know if there was something specifically taught to them on this realm of committing to courtship, because you can't really have courtship unless both parties agree to it. So where is the like, we just assume that guys are going to agree to this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that just like, so then it's like, okay, we have to manipulate the women to follow, because obviously the men are going to do it right. Like, that's just the whole mentality I see here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, it's just so like bizarre to me now. Ugh.
That's concerning marriage, because
Yeah.
who wouldn't? Yeah.
I don't think that even is a decision you don't make as a Christian.
Right.
Okay.
Like, who walks into that thinking that they don't want it, right?
I would have a terrible marriage with an abusive husband.
Yeah.
No. Said
Yeah.
no Christian ever.
Pretty logical.
Yeah. Okay.
I purpose to send potential partner to father for approval. Anyone who asks.
Like,
so if any guy approaches the girl showing interest, and it could be even as small as just talking to her too often at her desk or at church, if they show any level of interest, they're supposed to be directed to the dad. You don't have any say in it. You can't say, "Oh yeah, I like you too," or "Oh yeah, I'm interested as well," or "Yeah, I'm sure I'll spend extra time with you in the youth group." You had to send him to dad first.
Right. So it was almost like there is no getting to know you as a friend stage. Because as soon as there was physical attraction and you made an interest known in getting to know this person on a more than friendship level at any point in your life, it was automatically courtship track and go see my father. So it was like a lot of pressure. Like, that's a lot of pressure for really young kids. Wow.
Especially
I never
for the guy, because he had to go to the dad and talk to the dad. And I've heard multiple stories about the fathers being horrible to the guys.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those, tell us your story.
Yeah, we would really love to hear this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, we really want to know your perspective.
Absolutely. Because it's like, I feel like a lot of times the women do speak the loudest because we had so little of a voice in this. But, it's like the men were affected too. And it's kind of like, I'm really curious, like, at what level they were. And like, did any of them go, well, that's not how you should treat your wife? Like, I just really want to know. Like, or did you were like, well, this must be what God wants for me, so I should treat her this way? Like, I'm kind of curious. So if, hey, reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation with you. So now we have 4 subpoints of point 2. I just noticed that.
I didn't realize there were subpoints.
1, 2, 3, 4, actually 5.
You increase his appreciation of you. What a fellow works for you appreciates more.
Oh yeah, you got to work for it.
Yeah,
don't be easy.
Yeah.
Pretend you're not interested.
Yes. You decrease temptation to morally mistreat you. Morally mistreat you.
You decrease temptation. Oh, when you do this, it decreases the temptation to morally mistreat you, because he's not going to want your body if you're following God's plan. Right?
Because men are not innately like this. God did not create them like this.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's not natural, and they have no like responsibility to have self-control. But okay. All right. It's your responsibility to decrease temptation. So if you have to go to your dad, they're not going to be as tempted by your body. Got it. Okay. Because that's going to prevent them from lusting after you. Okay. All right.
You prove that your father loves you.
Yes. Your
Wow.
father loves you if he lets you court. If he lets you date, he doesn't love you.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're proving that he doesn't love you if you don't do this if you don't agree to this.
Which is weird.
That's
Wouldn't that prove that you don't love him?
Yeah, that's backwards.
It is on you as the daughter to prove that your daddy loves you. What?
Mm-hmm.
That's not backwards at all, Mr. Gothard.
So if you don't follow this teaching, you're proving that your father doesn't love you, or that maybe you don't love him either because you're not willing to,
Follow him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that should be what it says, though. Like, I mean, if it was really, like, true to their teachings, you're proving that you don't love your father if you don't follow this. But I don't understand how this proves that your father loves you.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
No.
Maybe because he's trying to protect you, but I don't understand.
You're allowing him to protect you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't. Yeah. Anybody got any ideas on that?
Yeah, give us insight.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had half a brain when I read this.
Right. I signed off on this. I did a courtship agreement with my dad. I had a purity ring that I wore on my left hand for years. So, but I just don't remember. I don't know if I just didn't understand it when I read it or if it was required of me. And so it didn't matter whether I agreed with it or whether it was weird. That was what was required. I don't even remember what my thought process was when I did it. I wonder if I still have that certificate. I should see if I still have that.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun. We could post it on the Instagrams and the Facebooks.
I think I might. Well, I don't know. I might have thrown it out a long time ago.
Yeah, who knows?
Burn it! Burn it all!
Where's that dude with his bonfire? If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, there was a guy in the news and he was asking out his congregation to bring all their Harry Potter books and, all of the ungodly, manuscripts of the world. And they were going to have a big bonfire and he didn't care if, the fire department didn't want him to. Praise God, he was going to do it to the glory of Jesus. I don't know, something like that. So, yeah. The internet was on fire this week.
Yes, it was. I missed that one. I caught the other one. I missed that one.
Yeah, that one was funny. So, okay, so you prove daddy loves you because it's your responsibility to prove that daddy loves you. Okay, got it. You give an opportunity to evaluate the motives of the fellow because his motives aren't going to be pure if he's willing to go to your father. Okay. I mean, I can see that, that would hinder a less determined feller. You have to be pretty determined to go to her father and ask her father's permission. So I get,
Could be pretty smitten.
It's not going to be the puppy love.
You put the fellow in the right relationship with your authority. Because you're transferring authority. You can't be out from under authority at any point as a woman. So you got to transfer from daddy to the husband.
Right. So they have to be in cohesiveness in what happens with your life.
Yes. You purpose not to discuss marriage with a fellow, but direct him to your father first.
Can I marry you? No, you need to go talk to my dad first to see if I'm even
allowed. If you happen to get to know him enough to be discussing marriage before he even got to your dad, like that's backwards too, because
if you're following this, that would have happened already.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you were following this, you would never get to discuss marriage with him in the first place.
Right. I propose the fellow.
I purpose not to discuss marriage, or no? I purpose. Oh.
Okay. I purpose the fellow must have 8 essential qualities before marriage. So propose, purpose, propose. I propose the fellow must have. Okay, so basically, I'm going to have a checklist, and he must have all these 8 things before I can marry him.
Checklists are so big with AGI and IBLP. It was always a checklist.
There's
Okay.
a checklist. I had a checklist, but it was nothing like this. But okay.
Yes.
Must have genuine salvation.
My checklist says must love Harry Potter or Star Wars or both.
Yeah. Or at least tolerate it and not say a word.
Tolerate it enough to let me watch it, 15 times a year. Yes. You cannot deny me screen time because I get to watch that. Okay.
So let's go over this checklist and see how many of these things we can actually prove, like infallibly, or like we can actually prove these things on this checklist, so he can actually meet these checklist items because they're provable.
Yes. So
must have genuine salvation.
Yes.
Because we can figure that out. Because that's not between him and God. Okay.
Right. I mean, he can tell you that, but you can see it in actions, but
tell you all day long.
Even better, he must accept himself. That's really hard to know.
Right?
Sometimes people don't even know they don't accept themselves. That is so buried deep into their psyche.
And then, like, they can act like they do for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And doesn't it say somewhere that courtship should be short, like not for very long?
Yeah, like a year. So like I think somewhere.
No way that you could figure that out in the short amount of time that they give you to do a courtship.
Exactly. Because then because if you go any longer, you're going to want to defile yourself and have sex.
Yes. All right, and it says, must be a man under authority. Okay, so he is becoming his own authority over his family when he marries, but he has to be able to be under authority with the dad.
But there's also, sometimes I remember, like, there's reasons for them to be okay to be outside of authority. Like, a man can be outside of authority as a single man in certain, like, I kind of remember that somewhere. We're going to have to go.
I remember that one.
We're going to have to, like, there's so many wisdom books. I'm sure it's somewhere. So we're going to have to come.
Yeah.
We're going to have to come back to that idea because somewhere in my brain, I remember, like, there's, like, justification for men to be outside of their authority, like their parents.
Think you're right. Yeah, it's coming back to me vaguely. I just don't remember what it is.
Yeah, and I don't know where to find it. So we'll have to find it one day.
Must have a clear conscience
because you can prove that for somebody else.
Must know how to yield rights.
I mean, you can see that if they're going to be, like if they're going to compromise with you. Wow. I should have had that on my checklist. That would have like totally saved me from so many bad relationships. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Must have moral freedom.
Because we can figure that out. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Must know, because that's your inner mind that works there. Must know God's purpose for his life.
That'll never change. So if he knows it when he's 18, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. There's no room for growth at all. You got to know it then. Yeah. Yeah. Or maturity level or life circumstance or any of that. Must have financial freedom.
Don't get those bums with debt, man.
Right? Because usually when they're asking for this anyway, they haven't had a chance to do any of that anyhow.
Yeah, like what 18-year-old to 23-year-old has financial freedom? Like it's very few and far between.
Yeah.
Okay. Discerning God's will regarding a life partner. Only a Christian. Okay.
Life, no defrauding, harmony at home, timing in marriage, yield right to marry.
I don't know. Dedication to Christian service. Okay.
You can't want to get married, but if you don't want to get married, then that makes you viable for marriage.
Huh? Say that again?
So he has to yield right to marry, right? He has to have dedication to Christian service. This makes him a good pick.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. But he has to yield his right to that. He has to not want it to get it for it to be a viable candidate.
Oh, yeah, right?
Right?
I don't want it, but I want it, but I'm willing. I don't want it, but I'm willing. Right?
It's so messed up.
Okay. Marriage conflicts caused by defrauding. Lack of self-control. Dating causes lack of self-control. Really? Really?
Ugh.
Really? Okay. Physical affection. More delicate. Oh, the woman has a more delicate conscience. That and obviously lower standards.
Yes.
Oh wait, no.
Yeah,
That
she's the
causes her to
temptress.
lower her standards.
She's the temptress. Yeah.
Where is the dude with his bonfire? Because this belongs in it.
Yes. Seeds of guilt and doubt. Reacts to her coolness, makes demands. He doesn't love me, confirms doubts.
This is like so much to unpack in this one page.
It is.
Attempts to prove love by buying gifts. But that's one of the ways people receive love is by gift giving.
Exactly. Accepts gifts or focuses on temporal things. So
greedy bitch. She's a greedy bitch.
Yeah. So he's trying to buy her love, and if she accepts it, she's focusing on temporal things. Still makes her the bad guy.
Exactly, because the guy is just trying to prove his love.
Exactly, but she's still the bad guy.
Then she's a greedy bitch. Yeah. He's just trying to prove his love.
And not godly because she's focusing on things of the world and not things of God. Concentrates on work, concentrates on home, television, children. That's a bad thing to concentrate on. Don't concentrate on your children.
God forbid you take care of them. And not your husband, who's a grown man.
Oh my God. This is terrible. It has been so long since I've read through these I've never read through these with the sane mind.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
now that I'm going back through that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awful.
Okay, I think we can skip this.
Courtshiping, dating.
The wisdom and freedom. There is freedom in courtship. Really? Oh, tell me about it. Definition of dating. We have a solid definition of dating. Singling out one person of the opposite gender and cultivating interest through thoughts, looks, notes, talks, or events. Oh, don't be passing those notes in school. That's dating.
This is so outdated.
Yes. I mean, like this was written in like what 1972. I don't know.
Right. These days would be like, let me just text him a note.
Yeah. Texting. Okay. Sorry. I need to update that to this texting, sexting, and nudes. Okay. Updated current day. Okay. Why dating causes conflict? Because courtship can't.
Yes, because it's not two humans, and humans just naturally have conflict.
Okay, so the motive is wrong. You're getting versus giving. But the guy was giving her gifts and she received them. So I don't know. I'm confused on that one. The goal is wrong. Because if you're dating, your only goal is obviously pleasure and not commitment. Because nobody dates to get married.
Yeah.
Confused.
That's not the purpose behind it.
No. The idea is wrong. Your core idea of dating is absolutely wrong. It's human nature versus what? What does that even mean? Limitations. What?
I don't know.
Human nature versus limitations? The idea? What? I'm confused. Maybe they went into more detail, and it's
Maybe they did when they were talking.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. The results are wrong because you can only get hurt if you date. You cannot get hurt if you court.
Subliminal messaging right there. That is how the lies are planted. That's the subliminal message,
right? Because I courted this guy and it didn't work out, so I'm hurt by it. Oops, I must have courted wrong.
Yeah.
Because it says right there, you don't get hurt if you court.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Gothard, when did you ever court or date?
Right. So where did you come up with this idea anyway?
Where in the Bible does it say you won't get hurt if you have a relationship with the opposite sex ever?
Right.
Like,
or love anyone, or yeah.
Like
Yeah.
relationships in general are hard. Like
Mhm.
you're going to get hurt. I have a loving relationship. I've gotten hurt by my husband, usually by my own like past traumas, but there's hurt there.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such the top. Oops, I crashed. See, even the internet doesn't like it.
It says it's too much. It's too much, darling. It's too much.
Crap, nothing but crap. Go away.
Yeah.
All right. Definition of courtship. It's two fathers agreeing to work with a qualified young man to win the daughter for marriage. She doesn't have to be qualified. She can just be any old daughter.
Wow.
I don't like it. All right. Internet, behave.
So controlled too. That poor son that had to deal with two fathers being authority over him, and that's just a recipe for disaster.
Right? Like
he can't be of his own mind. If he's going to be in charge of a family, he can't be his own authority. Be of his own mind.
Not yet. You can only do that once I give you permission to do it.
Right. And once you get married, once you actually say the vow.
And then you're supposed to be able to do it without help.
Yes. And without having learned. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. A daughter's agreeing to accept proposed love. Proposed love. Let's get that straight. Not intended love, not actual love, not
no, proposed love. You can grow into this because it's of God.
Mm-hmm. I have an intention to love you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't yet, but I have an intention to love you. Okay. And protection, because God forbid a woman take care of herself.
Right. we're the weaker ones.
Yes. Oh, wait. We have a copyright. It was written in 1986. So definitely pre-electronic communication. So we're good. But we just need to update the whole note thing. So this is a whole story. I don't know. Oh my God. My internet.
So 86 would have been the first or second year of ATI.
There's just so much to unpack in this. It's just like dipping your toe in what's coming ahead. Like it's just like dipping your toe in it. But without this, all of the other marriage teachings that they have don't work. Mm-hmm. So, and that's why it's the basic seminar, because if you get the basics, then you can get more. And then it just, and there's one of the correlations with Scientology is because their members pay for their courses, and so does ATI.
Yeah.
And you need more because a basic was not enough. And you can't just go to the basic once to get all the information because it's way too much. You have to do it multiple times. And you also need the advanced because obviously God has so much information to bestow through Mr. Gothard that one course is not enough. You must pay more money for him to reveal more to you.
Yeah. And the advanced seminar goes into deeper depth and in more detail specifically for marriages. So You're only getting a little tiny taste in the basic. In advanced, there were full days, because I remember as a 12-year-old, we go to this and my mom said, now, okay, so this afternoon session is more about marriage and it has a lot of information that you might not understand yet, but you still have to sit through it because you want to go to Knoxville. So just if you have any questions, ask me or don't, just ignore it. Just color. Just color and doodle and ignore the teaching.
That doesn't apply to you.
I remember her specifically saying, don't take this too seriously. Just color while they're talking about this, because she was so embarrassed that they were talking about this. There's specifics on on, I think this is where they might go over like family planning and some subjects like that.
Right.
And so, yeah, to put a 12-year-old in that.
Yeah. And if you haven't had the sex talk with your kids, which most of them hadn't
No,
until they're,
or even like, but a lot of us didn't even have it. We
Yeah.
wasn't given, because it was such a taboo subject.
Yeah.
So you're left
taboo subject, but the whole entire curriculum was based on a lot of that. So, but whatever.
But whatever. That's another subject for another day.
That's another podcast in and of itself. So we really didn't get to kind of like talk about some of our experiences with courtship, dating, and marriage and relationships a whole lot. So I think maybe we'll do another podcast and we'll go into like some personal experiences of applying these principles.
We did the basic seminar on we made a basic seminar on courtship right here. So this is your basic. This first episode's your basic. The second episode's your advanced. We'll go into dating and
yes. And you have to subscribe and like and comment to be able to come back and get more.
Anyways, and now you've got your foundation, and now we'll go on to the next episode.
We'll keep you wanting to come back. And we give this all to you for free. We don't require you to pay for a single bit of this nonsense and malarkey. Now, I hope that y'all enjoyed us kind of going through this. And I mean, I don't know who would enjoy it, but enjoyed learning the inner workings and the twisted mind of Bill Gothard. I'm going to be frank with you. Yes, we realize that this is kind of crazy to have like subscribe to. Yes, we understand that a lot of these teachings are twisted. When we were in this, Marcy was in it from when she was a kid. I was 18 and very broken. And so what I would like to say is that if you weren't in it and you are trying to learn more about it, I just ask that you have a little compassion on those that have been in it and understand that there are millions of people in this world that are in multiple different cults. I'm glad you didn't get in it or any of them. But just because you didn't doesn't mean that the people that did get into it, it's not like we were looking to hurt people. And we didn't go into it with malicious intent. And yes, the teachings hurt us. And in turn, we may have hurt others. But our intentions were never, most of us, a lot of us. I'm not going to say, like a lot of the people that I know went into it because they thought it was truth. And it gets a little murky because a lot of the teachings were abusive. And there were parents who had absolutely no intention of abusing their children that wound up doing it because of these teachings. And so whether you're a Christian or not, I ask that you try to come at it from a different angle than judgment and vileness. We're not all criminals and perverts. And I'm kind of just going to leave it there because a lot of people who, and this is kind of the point of our podcast, is to give you a real life look into this cult and where it brought us and why. I'm not exactly sure what the point of that, other than to just be kind to the people who were in this and don't make a judgment based off of specific people's actions.
Can I say, it's easy to come at something like this and see, like, as you're reading through that material that we were just going over, it's easy to look at that and say, logically, that's stupid, or that's crazy, or why would anybody fall for something like that? And the point is that a lot of people that were going to these seminars, a lot of them were broken. And it made sense because it promised safety. And when you come from trauma or when you come from brokenness, safety is all that you want. And so it was appealing. And then I think that's where a lot of the parents came from. Not all, but some. And then some of us, like you said, you came from a very broken place, Dee, but when you got into it because you were 18, but in a very broken place. And then, some of us were in it from childhood, from 5. I was in it from 5 or 6. So I didn't know anything different. Right. We were inundated from the beginning. And I think that to some extent, my parents got into it because of brokenness as well, because it promised safety. So it's easy to say it's not logical and it's crazy. And why wouldn't you see that right away? But sometimes you don't see it if you're looking for safety.
Right. It just really hurts me when I see people generalize the followers of this group as abusers and criminals, because you're stereotyping and you're not trying to understand it. Just asking you to, follow along and learn more about it. I guess with that, we're going to sign off here and ask you to join us next week. We do have some things coming up. So a little tidbit we forgot to include. We're dressed in different clothing, so background's a little different too. So, we forgot to mention. So we're gonna let you know. February 22nd, we will be doing a live and we will answer your questions.
So if you are not able to join us for the live, but you have questions, just go to the social media area, leave those there for us, and we'll try to address them for you there. So we would love to hear what you have to say.
Or you can leave your questions in the comments of this video also.
Yes, exactly.
We're going to be on a friend of mine's crime podcast, Brits with a Side of Murder. Not exactly sure when. We're going to be recording with her shortly here soon. And then we have another podcast or YouTuber that we're going to be collaborating with. Be looking forward to some collaborations. And we really hope that you'll come back and learn more. And we're going to go into the next episode is going to be about our relationships and courtships and dating, kind of how this applied to our lives. Thank you so much for joining the Umbrella Rebellion. We hope that you will come back next week and join the rebellion. Bye.
Bye.